Well, it's always the right time to buy. We have a long-term view on this. I think that this is the decade of Bitcoin. This last decade was the first decade of Bitcoin, and it reached multi-$100 billion by March of 2020. But I think the pandemic catalyzed the next phase of growth and caused it to mature and come to the attention of institutional investors. And so I think the coming decade is the decade when institutions, corporations, governments, and the like begin to adopt Bitcoin as a digital asset. Well, they can't buy Bitcoin because they have investment funds, and the charter of the investment fund is to invest in corporate debt. So their choice is to buy corporate debt from MicroStrategy that's backed by Bitcoin and also backed by the cash flows and the intellectual property of an enterprise software company, and get paid 6.15% interest. Or they could buy corporate debt from another company approximately our size, but only get paid maybe 4% interest, and they would not be collateralized by Bitcoin. Or they could buy the corporate debt of an Apple computer or a bigger company and get paid 2% interest. So they're actually investing in a debt instrument that's collateralized by Bitcoin and cash flows that's got a much larger yield than other choices they might have. I would say that if you have the charter and the ability to buy Bitcoin, you could buy naked Bitcoin and you get all the volatility of Bitcoin. If you have an investment fund and your charter is to invest in publicly traded equities, you can't buy Bitcoin, nor can you buy convertible debt, nor can you buy debt. And so if you were to buy MicroStrategy, you would be buying a company that's a blend of an operating software company with a leveraged Bitcoin position. That would be different than buying an ETF, because an ETF wouldn't have an operating business to sweep cash flows into Bitcoin, and it wouldn't be a leveraged Bitcoin position, and you couldn't do the sort of things we've done, like issue debt for 0% coupon. I mean, you can't do that with an ETF. If you have a convert fund, you could buy convertible bonds, but you couldn't buy equity, and you can't buy Bitcoin, and you can't buy senior debt. And if you have a corporate debt fund, you can't buy converts, you can't buy equity, and you can't buy Bitcoin. So the world consists of different investors. They have different charters. They have different limited partners. There are certain things they can do. If you want Bitcoin exposure, you might choose any of those as a rational decision. It depends upon your strategy and your charter. 6 months ago, there was no inflation in sight, and we speculated that it might get to 2%, and when it did, the Fed would do something. They would do nothing until it got over 2% for a long period of time. In the last month, I think it's now 5%. And so we found inflation by CPI standards. And so institutions have reason to be concerned about inflation. Between that and the commodity inflation, which is rampant, I think Paul Tudor Jones' message is a good one for Bitcoin. He's saying that he's upping his allocation from 1 or 2% to 5%. That's great. I think it signals that institutional adoption is coming. I actually was only in Miami for a few hours for the conference. I did go there to speak. I was impressed with the enthusiasm of the entire Bitcoin community. There's just a lot of passion in the community right now, and I just never seen such strong morale, and lots of really positive stories. I think people are very charged up about what's going on in El Salvador. That was a big highlight. I think the developments in Nigeria and Tanzania are highlights. I think that the news this weekend out of Lebanon, that Lebanese have lost 90% of the value of their local currency, and their dollar amounts or dollar balances are frozen by the banking system. I think that punctuates just how important Bitcoin is to the entire world. And I think you could feel that passion in Miami. Everybody feels like this is the idea whose time has come. And we have an opportunity to spread property rights and human rights to 8 billion people around the world.
Speaking of which, El Salvador, of course, said that they are accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. More recently, the Central American Bank for Economic Integration is supporting El Salvador with technical assistance, and Tanzania's president is urging the country's central bank to prepare for global crypto adoption. So we are seeing this ripple effect. I wonder if you can expand on that.
Well, I think What's clear is lots and lots of nations around the world are struggling and they need some kind of reserve asset like Bitcoin. The United States dollar is spreading everywhere, and El Salvador lost their own currency after the last civil war, and they were using the US dollar as their medium of exchange. But they need a store of value, and they also need a way to move billions of dollars cross-border without paying exorbitant remittance fees. And so I think what we can see in El Salvador is the future model of the 21st century digital economy, and that would be billions of people with a digital wallet on a mobile device. And one of the things in the wallet is going to be a digital currency like the US dollar, probably running on a stable coin. And the other thing that's going to be in the wallet is a digital asset like Bitcoin. Bitcoin gives everybody in the world, and especially in El Salvador, the ability to save their money in an asset that's going to appreciate in value over time. And it's also providing a worldwide settlement and synchronization network that allows anybody in the world to plug their website, their mobile application, their bank into the global monetary network, and they're not forced to pay a 10% fee to move money back and forth or to wait. El Salvador is the model, and the enthusiasm, excitement here is because there are billion people, 1.7 billion people that are unbanked. They need the same thing: an Android phone that costs $50, a bank in their pocket, and assets that go up in value. I think the US dollar is going to spread to 5 billion people. I think that this decade is going to see the explosion of the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world. It'll be the digital currency that'll be on every iPhone and every Android phone in every country in Africa and Asia and South America. And it'll move on Bitcoin rails. The Bitcoin Open Monetary Protocol is what allows the US dollar to spread to billions of people. In an inflationary environment, money breaks down into two forms. There's a medium of exchange, we'll call it the currency, and that'll be controlled by governments, and the US currency is going to be the most powerful one. And then you need a store of value, and that's an asset, and Bitcoin is the most powerful store of value on earth. So oftentimes people think that these things are in conflict. They're not. What you're going to see is the US dollar and BTC, both of them spreading to billions of people, because the world needs both. They need a medium of exchange that's compatible with payment networks and is high speed. All of these are indicators that the entire world's beginning to realize that Bitcoin is the most powerful technology of the decade, and they're just noticing now.